projected to produce more plastic in the next decade than has been produced since the 1950s. It's possible for an average suburban family to be able to do something about that so that we can minimise the negative and harmful impacts that we're having from just blatantly consuming without any regard to the impacts of that consumption.
I'm Lauren, this is Oberon, and we live in Muanina Land in Taroona in Tasmania, about 15 minutes from Hobart, and we live here with our 3 daughters, Audrey, who's 15, Xanthi, who's 12, and Maisie, who's 8.
We live in a 50s weatherboard house in an average sized suburban block and try to live without making any waste.
We shifted to waste-free living about 3.5 years ago, and for the first year we collected all our waste in a biscuit tin. After that we shifted it to a jar. We've been collecting that for 2.5 years. It's not quite full yet. I think we could get maybe another year out of it. We have a ball of foil recycling that we've collected. We try and avoid recycling if we can.
We just don't want to play that gamble when we're putting things in our recycling bin in the hope that the right thing will be done by it, and also knowing that there's lots of energy that goes into the recycling process anyway, and if there are alternatives available to just avoid all of that, that's a solution that seems like a more long-term sustainable solution for us. And that one ball is like two years of our recycling. Some of the bigger changes in our lifestyle have been around shopping and food, because food packaging is a big part of a lot of people's waste, and it was a big part of ours. We buy a lot of our food in bulk, which means taking our bags and containers and jars to shops and having the ingredient put into those and bring it home, and you can just put it on the shelf and it's ready to go, and there's no packaging and there's no advertising. It's very simple and straightforward. We also will buy food in containers when we go to the butcher or the fishmonger or the guy who gives us snacks for our pets. We've got a few different methods of managing our food waste. We keep 2 buckets on our sink. One is for scraps for the chooks and the rest is for the compost bin. We have cold compost bins in our garden. We also have a dedicated worm farm just for pet poo. We're trying to take responsibility for everything that we bring into our home, and we think that if we can utilise things that are compostable and organic and actually help build soil in our garden to grow food, to feed ourselves and to feed our neighbours and share with our family and friends, then we think that's a much more convenient and healthier way to live.
I'll preserve lots of fruit from our garden, whether it be mulberries or apples or quinces.
We're focused also on what things are made of. If it's clothing, we're avoiding synthetic materials because we know that at the end of the life of that garment, we will have the responsibility of doing something with it. It is about having a family pact, and that means including our children in the conversations about how we're wanting to reduce waste. That was a conversation that we had with our children at the start and have continued to have that conversation so that they're there with us the whole way. We're not dragging our children along on this sort of adventure. They're there with us.
There is a misconception because I am at home with our kids, homeschooling them, which is a full-time job on its own, and I also run a business, but it's often perceived that we have so much extra time in our day that we must be able to do all of this because of that. And I don't know that that's necessarily true. I was homeschooling the girls before we moved to waste-free living, and I was just as busy then as I am now.
I think it's easy to forget how much power we have as individuals to enact positive change. If you look at how the cumulative negative impacts of all of the single-use plastic bags and plastic straws and plastic coffee cups that are being used every day, one straw, one plastic bag, that doesn't seem like a big negative impact, but the sum total of all that is extraordinary.
You don't need to go out and buy new cups and bags and toothbrushes and all of that sort of stuff. We would encourage people to keep reusing what they already have until those items are no longer useful, and then consider replacing them with something more ethical or compostable. Definitely don't go out and throw out everything and start from scratch with this beautiful new aesthetically pleasing zero waste kit.
Not all waste is immediately overcome by the individual who's facing that waste. It might be that it's a shared responsibility amongst the community to help make waste-free living more available to more people in different types of life situations. It's important that all levels of government and corporations all take responsibility for their end of the process and regulation, and that's all part of it. But I think that there's a lot that individuals and households can do to make a big difference now without having to wait. We can actually make a lot of change now, and by osmosis, a lot of that will filter broadly across the population and then filter upwards into the chains of power. It is constantly rewarding to know that the choices that you're making in your life are beneficial, or at least not harmful.
It feels pretty good to have not contributed all of that landfill.
There's many tonnes of waste that we have avoided by making these life choices. And I think the average household is able to produce enough waste to fill a 3-bedroom house every year in Australia. And so that means that's at least three 3-bedroom houses that we haven't
Three of this house
that we haven't filled with waste, just by making a bunch of relatively minor changes in how we do things. And I think we're happier for it.
I sleep a little better.
Yeah, that's right.
I love the way you make me feel, yeah, yeah. Said I love the way you make me feel, yeah, yeah. You make me feel real. tomorrow.